A woman ran barefoot through a burning forest, 6 months pregnant, blood on her mouth. A pale stone clutched in her fist, glowing white-hot against the dark. Behind her, hooves. Not one rider. Not 10. 20, carrying a sigil. No commoner should ever see this close to the ground. The tree line splitting open with torchlight. Wolves moving low through the smoke, silver-black fur slicked with rain. Her hand against a stone wall, the other pressed beneath her belly, breathing hard, eyes not frightened, calculating. The mark on her left wrist, burning bronze. A bond she never consented to, laid by a wolf she has never met, pulsing in rhythm, with something massive moving through the pines behind her. She was a kitchen girl once. Scrubbed copper pots, loved a boy who broke her. Now 12 great houses wanted her dead, and the king of the north was running out of forest to find her. She opened her hand. The stone answered. My grandson asked me once, "Grandfather, what makes a queen?" I told him to sit down. You ever watch someone you love break a promise to themselves? Not to you, to themselves. That's where this story starts. She was 21, 6 months pregnant, standing in a ballroom where she didn't belong, watching the man she loved give himself to another woman. Her name was Sable, Renwick. And what happened that night changed everything. The ballroom of Hollowvere Manor had never glittered so brightly. Sable stood at the edge of the marble balcony, one hand curled around cold iron railing, the other pressed flat against silk, stretched over her stomach. Below her, 300 guests moved like jeweled fish through the great hall, their laughter rising in waves to where she watched from shadows. Crystal chandeliers spun light across painted ceiling. A string quartet played something delicate, old. The scent of white lilies and beeswax candles drifted up to her hiding place, and she had to swallow hard against nausea that had not left her for 6 weeks. She should not have come, had told herself 100 times she would not come. Would stay in the small suite the housekeeping staff had given her. Would lie on narrow bed and press cool cloth to forehead and wait for him to come find her the way he always did, the way he had promised. But Caleb had not come for 3 nights. 3 nights of silence. 3 nights without note slipped beneath her door, without soft knock against window after household slept, without heat of his body wrapped around hers in dark, and the longer silence stretched. The louder whispers grew in servant's wing, the engagement gala, the bride, the announcement that would seal an alliance between 2 of oldest wolf families in northern provinces. Sable had pressed ear to wall and listened, heartbreaking with every word. Now she stood above celebration she had not been invited to attend, watching man she loved laugh with woman who was not her. He had not seen her yet. None of them had. The Eastern Gallery was meant for portraits and shadows, not guests, and sconces along its walls had been left unlit for atmosphere. Sable was nothing more than darker shape against dark. Midnight blue gown indistinguishable from velvet drapes that framed colonnade. She had chosen color on purpose, had chosen all of this on purpose, had wanted to see him before she let herself believe, had wanted to know. Caleb Verith stood at center of ballroom in coat color of storm clouds. Dark hair swept back from forehead, amber eyes catching every light in room, even from this distance, even through glass of partition. Sable could feel pull of him. The bond on inside of her left wrist throbbed, hummed beneath skin like struck bell. He had given her this mark 6 months ago, on night of autumn moon, in orchard behind his family's hunting lodge, had pressed teeth to soft inside of wrist, where veins ran blue and close to surface, had whispered vow against her skin that made her weep. You are mine, Sable Renwick. Not because council allows it, not because bloodlines approve. You are mine because Moon decided it the day you were born. And there is nothing in this kingdom or any other that will keep me from you, keep me from you. She had believed him when he climbed through her window on stormy nights with rain in hair. Had believed him when he traced curve of jaw with hands that shook. Had believed him 3 weeks ago when she had finally found courage to tell him about dizziness. Strange tenderness, missed cycles, and he had pressed forehead to her belly and laughed through tears. A child, Sable. We are going to have a child. She had not told anyone else, had not been able to. Her mother had died when she was 9. Father had drunk himself into grave year after. Cousin who took her in had passed her to Verith household as kitchen girl when she was 16. Glad to be rid of burden. And Sable had spent 4 years scrubbing copper pots in basement before Caleb had found her crying in herb garden one summer evening and asked her name. He was only family she had left, only family she had ever truly had. And now she stood above his engagement gala, with his child clump stirring beneath ribs, watching as Marisol Owen drifted through crowd toward him in gown color of poured cream. Marisol, her best friend, girl, who had shared narrow bed in servant's attic for 2 winters, who had braided Sable's hair before harvest dances, who had sworn on her own mother's grave that she would carry Sable's secret to end of her days. Marisol Owen, who had wept on Sable's shoulder 6 months ago, when she confessed she had begun to dream of Caleb, that she could not stop thinking of him, that she did not know what to do with wanting. Sable had held her and stroked her hair and told her gently that he belonged to another now, that dreams would fade, that some loves were not meant to be ours. Marisol had nodded against her shoulder and whispered that she understood. 2 months later, Marisol had been promoted from kitchens to upper household. 3 months later, she had stopped sleeping in attic. 4 months later, she had stopped speaking to Sable altogether. Tonight, in gown that must have cost more than 3 years of kitchen girl's wages, Marisol Owen walked toward Caleb Verith with hand outstretched and smile that did not reach her ice-pale eyes. String quartet fell silent. Sable's nails drove into iron of railing. Hush spread across ballroom like frost across window pane. Guest by guest, conversation by conversation, until 300 people stood waiting and breathing and watching as Caleb Verith took Marisol's hand in his. The patriarch of House Verith stepped forward onto small platform at head of room. He was old wolf, silver-bearded, his voice carrying without effort to every corner of hall. Tonight, we honor an alliance generations in the making. The union of House Verith and House Owen will bind eastern and western territories of kingdom in bond of blood and loyalty that no enemy will ever break. He turned. My son. The vow. Sable could not breathe. Caleb stood very still, did not look down at Marisol, did not look at his father. His face, that beautiful familiar face, was strangely empty. Eyes had gone flat in ways she had never seen them go. Even in worst of his dark moods, there was stillness to his body that did not belong to him. He stood the way a man stands in dream, the way body stands when something has stepped out of it and left only shape behind for one becunnered, one impossible heartbeat. Sable thought he would refuse for one impossible heartbeat. She pressed hand harder against belly and let herself believe that he would speak her name instead, that he would tell them all, in front of every powerful wolf in kingdom, that his vow had already been given to kitchen girl in orchard 6 months ago, and that no alliance of houses could undo what Moon had already sealed. She believed it for one heartbeat. Then Caleb opened his mouth. I take Marisol Awen as my chosen mate. By my blood, by my wolf, by honor of my house, by witness of every wolf within these walls. Ballroom erupted. Applause hit Sable like wave breaking against stone. She staggered back from railing, one hand flying to wrist, where bond beneath sleeve had begun to burn. Not gentle warmth she had grown used to over months. This was searing, splitting pain, as if something were being torn out of flesh by roots. She bit down on inside of cheek to keep from crying out, taste of copper flooded mouth below. Marisol turned face up to Caleb and smiled smile of woman who had won. And Caleb, the man who had sworn she was his on bed of fallen apple leaves. Did not look up at gallery, did not search shadows, did not even seem to remember that shadows were place where someone might hide. A sob broke loose from Saful's throat. She pressed fist against mouth to muffle it. World had narrowed to burning in wrist and sound of own ragged breathing and distant roar of crowd that did not know she existed. She turned and ran. Eastern gallery led to servant staircase that wound down into wine cellars. From there, passage cut beneath manor to stables. Sable knew every inch of route, had run it 100 times in stolen nightgowns to meet man who had been lying to her. Now she ran in gown that was all she had left of dignity. Blue silk tangling in legs, slippers catching on uneven stone. Each step sent shock of pain through belly. She did not slow down. Behind her, distant sound of orchestra struck up again. Beginning of dancing. First waltz of engagement celebration. Sable ran faster. In her tiny servant's chamber on 3rd floor. She had already had packed 3 days ago. Moment first whisper of engagement had reached her ears, because some part of her had known. Some part of her had always known that kitchen girl with bond on wrist and child in belly was not kind of story great houses allowed to end well. Her satchel waited beneath bed. Inside it, 2 plain dresses. Healer's kit she had assembled in secret over last 2 years. Small pouch of saved coin, and only thing she owned that had ever belonged to her mother. A pendant, pale riverstone strung on leather cord, carved with symbol no living person seemed to recognize. Sable pulled cloak around shoulders, paused at narrow window, and looked out on moonlit grounds, where bonfires had been lit along carriageway, in celebration of engagement that had just been announced. Somewhere down there, Caleb was being toasted. Somewhere down there, Marisol was being congratulated. Somewhere down there, life Sable had thought was hers was being given to someone else. With consent of every wolf who mattered, she pressed fingertips, cold glass. Be safe, my little one. Wherever we go from here, we go together. Then she turned and slipped out through servant's door. Vanished into cold dark of gardens. She did not look back. Did not see shape that had moved against high-arched window of western tower. Did not see broad shoulders silhouetted there. Long dark coat, pale hand pressed flat against glass, as if trying to push through it. Did not see eyes that had not been looking at engagement at all, but had been searching gallery colonnade. And shadows, with focus so total that man beside him had spoken to him 3 times without being heard. An hour later, when sky over Hollowvere split open with howl, no wolf in 3 provinces had voice enough to make. She did not hear what high-born guests would whisper of for years afterward. Alphaking of North, who had ridden 2 days through winter storm to attend engagement gala that was not his own, who had stood silent at western window through entire ceremony, who had turned at moment of vow and walked out of Hollowvere Manor without word to anyone, and ridden into night like man, pursuing something that had already been taken from him. By time bonfires guttered low, and last of carriages rolled away from manor. Sable Renwick was 3 miles into forest, with satchel on back and taste of blood still in mouth, by time Alphaking of North reached Eastern Gallery. All he found was torn strip of midnight blue silk, caught on nail in doorway, still warm where her hand had passed. 4 months later, in village of Briar Hollow, snows began at last to soften. Thaw came slowly that year. Reavers cracked first, then eaves of cottages, then long white fields that stretched between village and dark line of whispering pines by first day of third moon. Road into valley had become passable again, and traveling tinkers who had wintered in southern lowlands returned with their carts of needles and ribbons and news. Woman who lived in cottage at end of Mill Lane did not go to meet tinkers. Villagers had grown used to that. The healer, they called her, because she had not given them family name when she arrived in dead of winter. Because she had not corrected them when they began to call her by work, she did instead. She had come walking up frozen road on night so cold well had iced over. With satchel over shoulder, belly that even her cloak could not entirely hide, Miller's wife had taken her in, given her bowl of barley soup, pallet by fire, by morning. Old herbalist had set aside own grief at son's broken leg. Let stranger try hand at splint. And splint had been so precisely set, so cleanly bound, that herbalist had wept. Stay, old woman had said. Stay and village will give you roof. Her name, she told them when she had finally found courage to give one, was Wren. It was not her name, but it had been her mother's before mother had married drunkard and traded own name, for his Sable had carried it like candle through long walk north, and when Miller's wife had asked her at last what to call her, word had come out of mouth before she could think. Wren, small, brown thing that hid in hedges and sang only when no one was looking. It suited her well enough. In 4 months since her arrival, Wren had become something village had not known it needed. She set bones, drew out fevers, brewed teas for hard coughs that plagued children at end of every winter, made poultices for old men whose joints had begun to fail. She birthed 2 babies in dead of cold months. Girl in blacksmith's loft, boy in weaver's cottage. Both had come into world, breathing easy and pink. Villagers had begun to bring her gifts she had not asked for. Jar of honey, bundle of dried mint, pair of woolen, mittens knitted by grandmother whose grandchild Wren had pulled back from fever that had taken 3 other children that month. She accepted them all with quiet thanks, ate her meals alone, did not let anyone pass threshold of cottage at end of Mill Lane, especially not at night. At night, Wren stood in small back room of cottage, with both hands pressed flat against wall, breathed through burning that had not stopped since night she had run from Hollowvere. She had examined the bond 100 times by candlelight, by every law of wolfkind she had ever been taught. It should have faded. Mating bond rejected was mating bond severed. Moon did not permit such things to linger, within fortnight at most. Sign of faithless mate should pale to nothing more than old scar. Within season even scar should disappear. Hers had darkened, in months since gala. The connection on inside of left wrist had deepened from soft silver to burned ribbons. On worst nights, it glowed faintly in dark. She had taken to wrapping strip of linen around wrist at all hours, had begun to wear long sis even when fire was high. She did not understand what was happening, did not want to understand. To understand would be to hope, and to hope would be to die. Her belly had grown round and heavy beneath aprons. Midwife, who lived 2 villages over, had ridden out to see her in 2nd month, had laid hands gently on Wren's stomach, told her, with careful tone of woman who had delivered too many children to be wrong. That she felt two heartbeats, that she felt him two heartbeats, but Trin had wept that night until candle burned down. Wept for children who would never know their father. Wept for man she had loved, who had stood in ballroom and given his vow to another woman. Wept for girl she had been only 6 months ago. Girl who had still believed that love was enough, and she had buried that girl somewhere along Road North, in Snowdrift, with her old name. Then she had risen next morning and brewed tea for Cooper's daughter, had not wept again. That was Wren who walked out of cottage on first true day of thaw, with basket on arm, intending only to gather wild garlic that came up early in meadow beyond lane. It was children she heard first, clatter of small boots on wet road. Voices high and breathless, Wren turned, basket in hand, saw blacksmith's youngest girl racing toward her with braid coming loose and face flushed pink. Mistress Wren. Mistress Wren. The tinker says, "Slow down, little one." Wren caught girl's shoulder and steadied her. Breathe. Girl gulped air. The tinker. He came up from Grayford. He says there are riders on Southern Road. Riders with mark. What mark? Girl's eyes were huge, the wolf and crown. Basket slipped from Wren's hand and tumbled into mud. Wolf and crown was not sigil of any house she knew. Not emblem of House Verith, whose shield bore 3 black ravens. Not symbol of House Awen, whose banners showed silver doe. Wolf and crown belonged only to one being in entire kingdom, and that being had not ridden south of Iron Mountains in 11 years. Alphaking of North, how many riders? Her voice sounded very far away. 3, mistress. 3 is not retinue of king. Girl was breathing hard. No, mistress, but one of them. Miller says, one of them looks old. Old the way the world seers look old. Girl did not know why Healer had gone suddenly white as ash. Did not know why her hand flew to belly in gesture she had not seen before. Wren had not realized she had fallen into pattern of pressing palm flat against stomach whenever fear rose high enough to drown her children, whose father she had believed had betrayed her, whose father she had believed had spoken vow in ballroom to another woman, her children, who stirred now beneath ribs like they were listening. Go home. What? Go to your father's forge. Stay there until someone you know comes to tell you it is safe. Do you understand me? Girl looked at her with sudden fear. Wren did not have time to soothe. Are they bad men, mistress? I do not know. Go. Wren did not wait to see whether girl obeyed. She turned back toward her cottage at end of Mill Lane and began to walk very quickly. Did not run. Did not let herself run. Because running was what had brought her here. Running was what had broken her. Running was what had cost her 4 months of nights, waking in sweat-soaked sheets, and reaching for man who was not there. She would not run anymore. She walked through mud and melting ice, back to cottage whose door she had left open, whose fire she had left burning. At threshold, she stopped. Man stood in her kitchen. He was tall, graying, built the way old soldiers are built, broad in shoulder, scarred along one side of jaw. He held no weapon. Hands were raised, palms out at sides in gesture of peace that did not ease knot in her chest. Old pale eyes followed her across room as she stepped inside and closed door behind her. And Wren understood in single instant of looking at him. This man had seen things she would spend her whole life trying not to imagine. When he spoke, his voice was steady and low, and somehow enormously kind. Mistress, forgive the intrusion. I am Rowan Caradoc, captain of Northern Guard and counselor to Alphaking you have never met. I have ridden 2 days without rest to reach you before sun rose this morning. Because there are riders on this road who have been hired to kill you and your children, and they will be here before nightfall. I have not come to harm you. I have come to warn you." Wren's legs went out from under her. She caught edge of small wooden table, lowered herself into chair. She kept beside hearth. Her hand found its way without thought to inside of left wrist, where bond she had believed was severed had been burning hotter and brighter with each passing week. Rowan Caradoc's eyes followed the gesture, down to hidden plates beneath long sleeve, then to swell of belly beneath cloak, finally to small lump beneath collar, where pendant lay against skin. He did not speak for long moment. When he did, voice had gone very quiet. "Mistress, the woman Sedim my king is searching for bears a connection on inside of left wrist that should have faded in fortnight, and has not. She carries child that should not exist by any law of his kind. She wears around neck stone that has not been seen above ground in this kingdom for 400 years. Blood went out of Wren's face. "You do not know what you are saying. I know exactly what I am saying. That stone is my mother's. That stone, mistress, was your mother's, and her mother's before her, back through 9 generations of women whose names have been struck from every record in southern provinces, by order of council that wanted them forgotten." He paused. "May I come in? What I have to tell you cannot be said on doorstep." Wren did not remember stepping aside, did not remember crossing back to chair by hearth and lowering herself into it. Remembered only sound of own pulse in ears. Way children had gone suddenly attentively still beneath ribs, as if even they were listening. She did not run. That was first surprise of night. And it surprised no one more than Wren herself. She had thought all through 4 months of exile, that moment any rider with any sigil came within days' ride of Briar Hollow, she would gather satchel and pendant and unborn children and disappear again into next valley north. She had even chosen valley, had memorized path. But when blacksmith's daughter ran back toward village square, Wren bent and picked up my basket and walked back into cottage and closed door. She did not pack. She sat down in small wooden chair by hearth, pressed both hands flat against curve of belly, felt children move beneath palms in way they had begun to do that month. 2 pairs of feet pushing in 2 different directions, as if they were already arguing. And she thought about pendant. She had not understood that summer evening in orchard what symbol on stone meant. Her mother had given it to her on 7th birthday. 2 years before she died, had told Sable only that it had belonged to her mother before her and her mother before her, that she should keep it close and never speak of it to anyone outside their blood. Sable had been child, had not asked questions, had worn it under dress and forgotten about it for years at a time. Only after mother died and father drank himself to ruin, and cousin had passed her off to kitchens of House Verith, had she begun to wear it again. Like one wears saint's medal for comfort, she had let Caleb's see it once, only once. He had lifted it from collarbone with back of one finger. His face had gone very still. He had asked her where it had come from. She had told him because she had loved him, because she had not believed there was anything in world she could not tell him. Now, sitting in cottage at end of Mill Lane, she understood that she had given her one secret to man, who had given his vow to another woman, and she understood. With slow, cold horror of person watching ice flow break beneath their feet, that whatever was happening to her now had begun moment she opened mouth. There was knock at door. Wren did not rise. Knock came again, not loud, not impatient. 3 slow, deliberate raps against wood. Mistress, man's voice, older than she had expected. Gentler, I know you are within. I felt your heart settle when you sat down. Ren's hand went to iron poker by hearth. I have not come to harm you. I have come because man I have served for 30 years will lose what is left of his mind if I do not bring him news of you before moon turns again. I will not enter unless you bid me, but I would ask you very humbly. To open door, Ren rose, poker trembled in hand. She crossed small room and stood with palm flat against wood. Said through door only thing she could think to say. I do not know any king. There was long silence on other side. No, Mr. Voice said at last, very softly. But he knows you. She opened door. Man on her threshold was tall and lean, with hair color of iron, beard cropped close to face that had been weathered by long travel. He wore heavy traveling cloak color of wet sleep. Beneath it she could see dark leather of soldier's coat, but he wore no sword. His hands were open, palms out, an old gesture of wolf who comes in peace. Behind him in lane, 2 other men sat their horses at respectful distance, faces hooded against wind. Old man inclined his head. My name is Rowan Caradoc. I am first hand to Alphaking of North. I have ridden 11 days to find you. You have made error. I have not. My name is Ren. I am healer. I know nothing of kings. Rowan Caradoc looked at her. His eyes, very pale and tired gray, moved from her face to linen wrapped around left wrist, then to curve of belly beneath apron, finally to small lump beneath collar, where pendant lay against skin. He did not speak for long moment. When he did, voice had gone very quiet. Mistress, the woman my king is searching for, bears a connection on inside of left wrist that should have faded in fortnight and has not. She carries child that should not exist by any law of his kind. She wears on this round his neck stone that has not been seen above ground in this kingdoms for 400 years. Blood went out of Ren's face. You do not know what you are saying. I know exactly what I am saying. That stone is my mother's. That stone, mistress, was your mother's, and her mother's before her. Back through 9 generations of women who had disease have used rocks been struck from every record in southern provinces by order of council that wanted them forgotten. He paused. May I come in? What I have to tell you cannot be said.
On doorstep, Ren did not remember stepping aside.
Did not remember crossing back to chair by hearth and lowering herself into it. Remembered only sound of own pulse in ears. Way children had gone suddenly attentively still beneath ribs, as if even they were listening. Rowan Caradoc closed door behind him, did not sit, stood by small window with hands clasped behind back. Eyes on muddy lane outside. He spoke as if reciting thing he had rehearsed for very long time. On night of engagement gala at Hollowvere Manor. My king rode 2 days through winter storm to attend ceremony to which he had not been invited. He stood at western window of upper gallery and watched ballroom. He had come because 3 nights before, in his own keep, 400 miles to north, he had woken at same hour every night, with pain in his chest, like knife being driven inward. He had not been able to sleep, had not been able to eat. On 3rd night, he had gone to old seer and village beneath his fortress, demanded that she tell him what was happening to him. Rowan Caradoc's voice did not shake, but hands behind back had closed into fists. Seer told him that somewhere in southern provinces, true mate bond was being forged in violence. Bond not his own, she told him. That woman at heart of it was being hunted. If he did not ride south and find her before next moon, she would die. Line that ran in her blood would die with her. Ren could not breathe. He rode next morning, rode 2 days. He stood at western window of Hollowvere and waited for face he had never seen. Instead he watched young man in storm gray coat speak vow to woman in cream-colored gown. He watched shadow on eastern gallery turn and run. Rowan Caradoc turned at last to look at her. "My king never saw your face that night, mistress. He saw only strip of silk you tore on doorway. He has been searching for you ever since. 7 provinces, 40 villages, perhaps 2 hours of sleep every night in 4 months. Old man's pale eyes were very steady. He does not know who you are, does not know your name. He knows only that the connection that woke in his chest on 3rd night before that gala has not faded since. That wherever you are alive, that he will find you, or lose what is left of himself trying." Ren pressed fist against mouth. "There is more, mistress. I cannot, you must hear it. Please, man who spoke vow that night, did not speak it of his own will." Room went very still. "There is poison, older than this kingdom, brewed from moss that grows only in deep caves of western coast. It severs wolf from his wolf for span of 3 days, hollows him out and leaves shape of him behind. During those 3 days, he can be made to speak, to move, to vow, to sign, to do anything required of him. When he wakes, he remembers none of it." Rowan Caradoc paused. "My king has had cup tested, has had boy tested, has had 3 witnesses interrogated. Young heir of House Verith was poisoned with moss draught on morning of his engagement gala by someone within his own household. He woke 3 days later with no memory of woman whose hand he had taken. Ren made sound she did not recognize as her own. He came back to himself on 3rd dawn after gala. Has been searching for you ever since. He has not found you because his enemies have hidden you better than he has hunted, because they have ridden with insignia of House Verith into every village he has searched, telling villagers that they are looking for runaway servant girl who has stolen from her master." Ren bent forward over belly and pressed both hands against mouth. Raw, blurred. Woman in cream gown. Woman whose hand he took. Voice had at last gone hard. "Mistress, I am very sorry to tell you this. Poisoning was not done without her knowledge. Poisoning was arranged by her, through roaring in ears." Ren heard him draw something from inside coat, heard soft whisper of paper, heard him cross room slowly and crouch down in front of her chair, felt him press folded parchment into trembling hand. "This was intercepted 9 days ago by courier in my king's service who has since paid for interception with his life. It is written in hand of Marisol Awen, sealed with silver dough of her house, addressed to man in southern provinces whose name we know, but will not speak in this room." Ren unfolded parchment with hands that did not feel like her own handwriting was Marisol. She would have known it anywhere. Same hand that had once written her little notes from across kitchens. Same loops. Same spidery slant. Note was 3 lines long. "Kitchen girl is in Briar Hollow. She carries brat. In them both before new moon. Price is doubled if bodies are never found." Parchment fell from Ren's fingers. Outside in Muddy Lane, one of horses screamed. Rowan Caradoc. Caradoc was on feet before sound had finished. His hand went to long knife at belt that Ren had not seen him wearing. Pale eyes had gone in space of heartbeat color of old amber. "Mistress, get behind me." From trees at end of Mill Lane, where wild garlic grew. Slow gray shape detached itself from shadows. Then another. Then third from somewhere beyond them. At dark edge of whispering pines. Hunting horn sounded single low note. Children in Ren's belly. Kicked hard, right in front inside of ribs. Ren rose from chair before she knew she had decided to. Parchment lay on floor at her feet. Fire in hearth had burned low. Outside, sickened horse screamed. Sound cut off in way horse sounds were not meant to cut off. Ren understood without being told that one of Rowan Timkim Caradoc's 2 riders was already dead in lane. Stay behind mirror, Arayan said again. There is root cellar beneath kitchen floor. Trap is hidden under rag rug. It will not save me, but it will buy you moment. It is not for buying me moment that I need it, mistress. Then for what? For children. Wren's hand pressed flat against belly, outside in muddy lane. Man's voice rose in short barked command. 3 voices answered. Wren could not make out words, but she heard shape of them. Shape was shape of men who had done this work before, who were arranging themselves around cottage with unhurried confidence of professionals. Vendran family of southern provinces. Rowan had not said aloud. Did not employ amateurs. He did not need to say it. Handwriting on floor had said it for him. Mistress. Rowan Caradoc's pale eyes flicked once toward her. How many windows in this cottage? 3. Front, kitchen. And one above pallet. One above pallet faces trees. Yes, that is one they will come through. Front is for show. They want us watching door. He had drawn second knife from inside coat without her noticing. Held one in each hand now. Easy and low. When glass breaks, you go for cellar. Do not stop. Do not look back if you hear my voice. Oh, you stay where you are if you hear any other voice. You stay where you are. Do you understand? I understand, mistress. Yes, the stone. Take it off. Wren's hand flew to throat. Take it off. Hold it in your fist. Do not let them see it. Do not let them touch it if they take it from you. Everything we have done tonight is for nothing. She did not ask why. No time. She lifted leather cord overhead with shaking fingers. Pale river stone settled cold and heavy into palm. Moment her skin closed around it. Burning in wrist eased just little, as if stone had drawn some of heat into itself. Pane of glass exploded inward above pallet. Wren ran for cellar. She heard first body land on wooden floor behind her. Heard Rowan Caradoc move with speed that belonged to no man his age. Sharp wet sound of his knife finding its target. Crash of body folding against wall. She did not look. Rag rug had already been kicked aside in her flight hitch. She dropped to knees. Fumbled iron ring of trap door. Hauled it upward against weight of belly. Went down short ladder into dark. Trap fell shut overhead. For long moment, there was nothing but own. Ragged breathing in cold air, and dim light leaking through cracks in boards above. Wren pressed back to cold earth wall, clutched pendant against chest. Listened, there were 3 of them in cottage now. She could hear their boots, could hear Rowan breathing in short hard sips of air. The way man breathes when he has taken wound and is not letting on. Could hear kettle on hearth get knocked askew and clatter to stones. Could hear very faintly fourth voice from outside cottage calling instructions. Voice said, calm, almost bored, there will be cellar. Find it. Wren's heart slammed against ribs. Boot passed directly over her head. Dust sifted down through cracks and settled in hair. She did not breathe, did not move. Boot paused, turned slow half circle, paused again. Second boot joined it here, man's voice, thick with accent of southern provinces. Rug was kicked. Look at dirt, she went under. Open it, old man. Will be dead in another minute, open cellar. There was heavy soft sound from above. Old man going down to one knee perhaps. Grunt of effort, then trap door above Wren's head shuddered. She understood with cold clarity that they were going to lift it. That when they did, she would have no more than time it took to draw breath before knife or arrow or hand came down on her. She closed fist around pendant, did not pray. Had stopped praying somewhere along road north. Instead, she did things she had not done in 15 years. Thing her mother had made her practice every night for 3 years before she died. Thing Sable had thought all this time was only child's game. She breathed in. said the ancient words her mother had taught her in language Sable had never understood and had never been told meaning of. Pendant grew warm in hand. Above her, trap door came open. Man who had bent to lift it was perhaps 30 years old, broad through shoulders, with wolf's amber eyes and fresh cut across jaw where Rowan had struck him. He looked down into cellar. His eyes met Ren's. He opened mouth to call to others. He did not get chance. The river stone in Ren's fist flared. Light came out of palm. Not cool moonlight of wolf shift. Not warm gold of hearthfire. Clean white light. Color of inside of shell. Color of sky just before snow. It poured up out of closed hand. Through open trap. Struck man above her in chest. He made sound she would remember for rest of her life. Found, like man waking from dream, he had not known he was inside. He fell backward away from trap door without cry. Ren stared at own fist. Pendant pulsed against palm like second heart. Something her mother had said to her once. On winter evening, when wind was high and Sable had been small enough to sit on mother's lap. Came back to her now with force of struck bell. You are not what they will tell you. You are not kitchen girl. You are not healer's daughter. You are last in line of women who could put their hands on and ask it to listen. One day, my love, world will ask you back. Be ready. Ren had laughed because she had been 6 years old. Mother had only smiled and tucked hair behind ear, had never explained. Ren closed eyes for one long heartbeat, then climbed ladder Rowan. Caradoc was on knees by hearth when her head cleared trap. 2 men lay dead at his feet. Third man, one who had opened trap, lay sprawled on floorboards with eyes wide open. Breathing in slow, stunned way of man who could not remember his own name, Rowan had hand pressed aside. Blood had soaked through coat in wide, dark patch, was running between fingers onto stones of floor. He looked up at Ren as she came out of cellar. His face changed. Mistress. There is one more outside, mistress, your eyes. There is one more outside. He gave orders. He has not come in because he is waiting to see who comes out. Rowan looked at her for a long moment. Ren did not know what he saw. But she saw his throat work, saw something move in face that was not fear, and not awe, and not quite either. But thing that held little of both. Then we will not give him what he is waiting for. We are going out back. You are bleeding. I have bled before Rowan, mistress. He turned head. Pale eyes met hers. They were very clear. If we wait inside this cottage, more will come. They will come with archers and with fire. Your light will not save you from roof that has been set alight from outside. We go out back. We make trees. Man my king sent with me. Second rider. His horse may still be alive in lane, if not. There are wild horses in lower meadow that I can call. He paused. Can you ride? I can ride. Even now, then come. Back door of cottage opened onto narrow strip of garden where Ren had been growing winter cabbages. Beyond that, low stone wall. Beyond that, dark line of whispering pines. The Ryan went first, low and fast. Knife in uninjured hand. Ren came after with pendant clutched against chest. One hand pressed beneath belly to support its weight. Cold air bit at face. Mud sucked at slippers. She had not had time to put on boots, did not care. They were at stone wall when fourth man stepped out from behind it. He was younger than Ren had expected. Unmasked, clean-shaven face. Fair hair tied it back. Long traveling coat. He did not look like assassin. Looked like clerk. Crossbow in his hands, however, was not clerk's. Bolt set into it gleamed dully in moonlight with dark sheen of something that had been steeped in poison. First hand of north, young man said pleasantly. I have been told to take you alive if convenient. I have been told to take her alive at any cost. He raised crossbow, Rotwin Caradoc stepped between Wren and Bolt without seeming to move. "Run, mistress." Wren did not run. Pendant in fist had gone hot. White light leaked between fingers in thin, bright lines. Without thinking, without deciding, without even knowing what she meant to do, she opened hand, held stone out toward young man with crossbow. Like one holds candle out into dark room. Light did not strike him, it struck Bolt. Poison tip of crossbow bolt, flared white. Young man's eyes went wide. He pulled trigger by reflex, bolt loosed. Light traveled up length of it as it flew. When it struck Rowan Caradoc in shoulder, it struck without poison, without venom. Without any of things that should have killed him in breath that followed. Grunted, went to one knee. Young man stared at his crossbow. "What did you just?" Howl rose from direction of whispering pines. It was not Wolf's hunting howl. Wren had heard those in long winter nights at Hollowvere when household wolves ran eastern woods. This was something else. Howl with voice in it, howl with word in it. Though Wren could not have said what word was. Only that it cut through cold air like blade. That young man with crossbow heard it. That color went out of his face. He did not wait to see what was coming. Turned and ran. He made it perhaps 20 paces before thing came out of trees. Wren had thought, standing on Eastern Gallery at Hollowvere 4 months ago, that she had seen largest wolfman could become. She had been wrong. Shape that broke from line of whispering pines was bigger than any wolf had right to be. Its fur was deep, silver black, of wet slate. Its eyes burned color Wren had never seen on living thing. Green so pale it was almost white. Green like inside of glacier. It did not hunt young man with crossbow. Did not need to. It ran past him. Ran through him as if he were not there at all. Ran in long, low lope that ate distance between pines and stone wall. Young man fell behind it, fell quietly, fell with no scream and no sound. Only soft impact of body folding into mud. Wolf came on, stopped 6 feet from wall, did not approach Wren. Looked at her for long moment. Neither of them moved. Pale green eyes held her. Great chest rose and fell. Breath of creature steamed in cold air. Wren could see slow movement of muscle beneath silver black coat. She could feel something through open palm of hand. Something traveling along line of light from pendant. Searching meeching and finding the connection in wrist. Connection she had thought was wound. Connection she had thought belonged to boy in storm gray coat who had spoken vow to another woman. It lit up beneath sleeve like struck match. It was not same bond. Realization hit Wren so hard, she put hand on stone wall to keep from going down. Not same bond. Thing that had burned in wrist for 4 months was not what Caleb had given her in orchard. Caleb's sign had faded. She understood that now, with clarity that arrived all at once. The tie on wrist now, that had darkened to bronze, that had glowed faintly in dark, was different, second, a bond that had been laid over first one, like deeper ink is laid over fading one. Not human, that had been growing into her skin for 4 months. Kannakin she had not consented to, did not remember receiving. A bond that belonged to Wolf standing in lane. Wolf took one slow step forward, did not shift, did not speak. Simply lowered great head until breath was warm on back of hand. Pressed broad nose very gently against inside of left wrist. The tie answered. Pulse of warmth ran up arm into chest, down into belly, where children kicked once hard in unison. Went still. Oh, Wren whispered. Oh no. Wolf raised head. Pale green eyes held hers for one more long heartbeat. Then turned with slow, deliberate grace of creature, making sure it was followed. Began to walk back toward whispering pines. Behind her, Rowan Caradoc made soft sound that might have been laugh. Mistress, I think my king wishes you to come with him. Wren did not follow Wolf. She stood with hand on cold stone wall, watched silver-black shape walk away from her into dark, felt children stir again beneath ribs. Only thing she could think with strange numb clarity was that she had been fool for 4 months. Fool to believe she was running from one wound when she had been carrying 2. Fool to believe burn in wrist was Caleb. When Caleb's mark had faded night, she had fled. New mark had settled in over it before third dawn. Fool to believe for one single second of those 4 months that dreams she had been having of pale green eyes in forest she did not recognize were only dreams. Wolf paused at edge of trees, looked back over shoulder. Rowan, Wren said without turning head, "Stand up, mistress. You are bleeding. Stand up or I cannot help you." There was pause behind her. Then slow scraping sound of old soldier dragging himself to feet against stone wall. Wren went to him without looking at Wolf. Put hand against patch of blood on his side. Let pendant brush cloth. White light pulsed once. Soft Iran made small surprise sound. Bleeding stopped mistress. Voice very quietly. "I do not know what I am doing. I think perhaps you do. I have never done it before tonight. I do not believe that is entirely true." She did not answer. Closed hand around pendant, turned at last, walked across muddy garden toward line of pines. Wolf waited for Huron Caradoc, walked behind her with bloodless hand pressed to wound that had stopped bleeding. Look on face she could not read. Wolf led them perhaps quarter mile into trees, to clearing Wren had never known existed, where small fire burned low between 2 fallen logs. 4 horses stood tethered and watching. Man in long dark coat sat on larger of 2 logs, with head bent over folded hands, hair color of wet stone falling forward across face. He looked up when they entered clearing. He was not what Wren had expected. She had pictured. In few moments she had allowed herself to picture anything. Man like Caleb's father, silver-bearded, heavy-jowled, kind of wolf king who had ruled northern provinces for so long that ruling had begun to show on him. Man on log was not old, was perhaps 35, perhaps little older. He had clean, hard jaw, mouth that looked as if it had not smiled in months. His eyes in firelight were same pale, green, Wren had just seen in Wolf. She understood as he rose to feet that Wolf had not led her to her king. Wolf had been her king. He did not come toward her, stood very still on his side of fire with hands open at sides. Looked at her across small distance the way man looks. At thing he has been told he is not allowed to touch. Mistress, voice quieter than she had expected. Lower, there was roughness to it. Roughness of man who had been speaking too little for too long. "I do not know your name. I have been told you call yourself Wren. I do. Is it name your mother gave you?" It was her name, not mine. He absorbed that without moving. Pale green eyes did not leave face. "My name is Halrich Voren. I am Alphaking of 7 northern provinces. Lord of Whispering Pines. Holder of bond I did not ask for. Did not understand, would not, if I had been asked, have laid against wrist of woman I had never seen." He paused. "I am very sorry." Wren stared at him, not what she had expected him to say. "You did not ask for it." "No, then how is it on me?" Halrich Voren looked down at open hands, turned them once slowly, palm up to palm down, as if he were not entirely sure they belonged to him. "There is thing that happens to my line. Perhaps once in 3 generations. Perhaps once in 5. We do not speak of it. Seers in village beneath my fortress know of it. Old wolves know of it. We do not write it down. It is reason my line has been kept clean for 900 years. Reason 4 kings before me died without heirs." He looked up. "It is called other mark. It comes when wolf of my blood meets, even at distance, even unknowing, woman of certain old line. The tie is laid by wolf without his consent, received by woman without her consent. Once it is laid, it cannot be undone. You did not meet me. I did. I would remember. You would not. I did not. Until Seer told me. You came once. 4 years ago, with household of House Verith to Midsummer Council, at keep of my younger brother in Middle Provinces. You were one of 3 girls sent up from kitchens to carry wine. You were 16 years old. You would not have looked at me. I would not have looked at you. The mark does not require looking. It requires only proximity. Recognition between 2 old lines that wearers themselves do not know they carry. Wren put hand against trunk of nearest pine. 4 years, Yezus. 4 years. The connection sleeps until it is needed. It wakes when woman it was laid upon is in mortal danger. It wakes in our oldest stories. On night daughter of line is widowed, or orphaned, or betrayed, or hunted. He paused. It woke me 3 nights before gala at Hollowvere. Wren closed eyes. Seer told you to ride south. Yes, she told you true mate bond was being forged in violence. She did. It was not yours. No, it was Caleb's. Halric Voren was silent for a moment. I understood that when I stood at western window and saw boy speak vow. I understood that my mark was not mate mark. Mate mark belonged to boy in storm gray coat. My mark was other thing. Older thing. Thing that does not ask permission. He looked at her. I had ridden 2 days to find woman I did not know. I had stood in window and watched her run from man who had been poisoned into betraying her. I had felt her grief through bond. I had not asked to carry. I had ridden out of that house and started searching because Seer told me that if I did not, you would die. And mate mark, Wren said. Voice had begun to shake. Caleb's mark. Halric Voren went very still. What do you mean, mistress? Wren laughed. It came out wrong. Came out thin and high, and not like own laugh. She pressed back of hand against mouth to make it stop. I mean, for 4 months I've been telling myself, burn in my wrist was him. I have been telling myself that man, who climbed through my window every night, pressed his hand against my belly, whispered that he loved me in language that was not language I speak in day, was him. I have been grieving him for 4 months. She was crying now. Had not noticed when she began. He was never there at all. He was never in dreams. He was gone night I ran. Man who was in my dreams was you. I did not know your face, did not know your name. I have been mourning man who stopped loving me 4 months ago, while man I had never met was one whose voice I was hearing in dark. Halric Voren did not move, Fux did not change, but Wren saw very clearly in firelight that hands had begun to shake at sides. Mistress, I have come to take you north. I have come to take you to my fortress where you will be safe, where Vendron House cannot reach you, where Awen woman cannot reach you, where you will be guarded by my own pack until your children are born and beyond. I have come to keep you alive. He paused. I have not come to claim bond you did not consent to. The tie on your wrist will fade in time if it is not answered. It will hurt, but it will fade. You owe me nothing, mistress. You owe my house nothing. You owe my line nothing. The mark was laid without your knowledge. I will not hold you to it. You will not hold me to it, no. You will simply let it fade, yes. Wren laughed again. Same wrong laugh. And dreams? In which you came to me every night. In which you told me you loved me. In which you said my name in language I do not speak. In which you held me when I wept. I held you when you wept, because you were weeping, were not you. In those dreams, you were weeping for woman you did not know and had not found. Will those simply fade as well? Halric Voren closed eyes. Mistress, please, answer me. I cannot answer you. Why not? Because if I answer you, I will say thing I came here promising. Myself I would not say. Say it, mistress, say it, Halric Vorin. The opened eyes in firelight. Pale green had gone almost gold. Like frozen pond goes gold beneath low sun. Ren saw in his face very plainly, man who had been on knees in dark for 4 months, reaching for woman through bond he had not asked for. She saw in his face also man who would walk back to his fortress alone if she told him to. I love you. I have loved you since 3rd night before gala. I do not know you. Do not know your true name. Do not know color of your eyes, in daylight or shape of your laugh, or what you take in your teats, or whether you sing when you are alone. I love you anyway. I have loved you through bond I did not lay and do not deserve. I will love you whether you come north with me or you do not. I will love you whether you speak to me again after tonight or you do not. The mark will fade. Love will not. He drew long breath there. I have said it. Now please come north. Veteran House has tracked you to this village and they will come again. I cannot hold this clearing for more than another hour. Fire has snapped between them. Ren looked at him across it. She thought with clarity that Av surprised Ambidla girl in mid-blue gown who had stood on balcony 4 months ago, waited for man to look up at her. She thought of how that girl had run. She thought of how she had not been same girl spud. Since I am not coming north because of Mark, I know. I am coming north because there are men in this kingdom who want to put poison bolt into my children. You have horses. I do not. I know, mistress. And because I would like to know what color your eyes are in daylight. Halric Vorin looked at her for very long moment, did not smile. But something in face eased the way held breath eases. He inclined head very slightly. Old wolf gesture of king accepting gift from hand he had not dared to ask. North then. They rode for High Hall where Council of 12 waited. Along the way, cold reach burned. Sable used the river stone to call water from wells, put out fires, healed 17 people. Halrich never left her side. Harold arrived with Marisol's ultimatum. Come to High Hall alone, or more towns burn. Sable refused to go alone. I will walk into High Hall with the King of North on one side of me. And I will break the binding in front of them all at High Hall. Before council, Vorun Kala, her grandmother's brother, sat as steward Marisol at her father's feet. 12 old men in 12 chairsable knelt, placed hands on stone, spoke her mother's incantation. The binding broke. 400 years of stolen earth strength returned to soil. Council members aged 40 years in single breath became ordinary old men. Marisol drew knife, put it to Sable's throat. Sable talked her down. You can be in the new council, or you can be in a cell. Choose. Marisol collapsed, wept. Halrich and Sable performed bonding ceremony before all witnesses. By my blood, by my wolf, by honor of my house. What is mine is yours. What is mine to defend, I defend with you. There is no other, the bond sealed. High Hall settled with sound of thing finally, letting go of long-held breath. Years that followed were neither easy nor quick. Twins born as leaves turned, girl with father's eyes and warm hands, boy with mother's gray eyes. Caleb took holding on western coast, spent rest of life burning caves where moss draft grew, sent pears every autumn, never wrote, never married. Marisol took father's seat, held it 31 years, married late, no children, visited fortress 4 times. On 4th visit, old woman to old woman sat with Sable in silence all afternoon. When leaving, thank you for not cutting my throat, sister. Sable, thank you for not cutting mine. Marisol died that winter. Sable wept 3 nights. Halric held her without word. Land healed. First year, wheat came up green. Second year, rivers ran high. Seventh year, southern provinces fed 3 neighbors. New council had 4 women. Would have 6 met every spring. Sable opened session with her mother's words. Daughter at 9 cut hand to bone. Stone flared, cut closed. Sable, there you are, my love. There is the line. You have it now. Be careful with it. Be kind. Howrich lived to 73. Sable to 76, buried together in stone vault. No titles on stone, only 2 names, date of bonding, and beneath. The 4 words in language no one needed to translate. Vault became pilgrimage site for women, discovering their hands could be warm when needed. They brought pears in autumn. White flowers, carved stones, said grandmothers' names aloud. Names were not struck from records anymore. Names were written in books of New Council, High Hall, 400 years old and built on broken binding. Stood whole long while. 2 old wolves lay in stone vault beneath quiet hill. Line of women who had once been forgotten kept walking forward into years, 1 daughter at a time, with hands warm and stones close, and names their own.